Hey, welcome to Listen to the Music. I'm Chase.
I'm Harrison.
I'm Finley.
And I'm Sean. Now, I know what you're thinking because I am psychic and I can hear your thoughts. You're thinking, what, why, who? And I will answer these questions. So essentially, right, this is a podcast, if you will, in which we will discuss music using our massive wrinkly brains.
It's kind of the idea.
But first, a message from our sponsors. We don't have sponsors.
Give us money.
No.
Pretty much, except we don't have a Patreon, so that's impossible.
So don't give us money.
Or if you see me in person, hand me a 20.
Today we're going to be talking about Led Zeppelin, a foundational band in rock and roll history, and all around a that
Wow.
Yep, just
Same, honestly.
really. We're not really here to talk about music. Our main goal is getting in your wallet.
True.
At your house. Fun fact. You're behind you right now. We're behind you. But yes, Finley, continue with your
little intro on Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin was a rock band formed in England in 1968, and some might say they were one of the founding groups for like hard rock and all that kind of jazz.
They didn't play jazz, Finley.
They didn't play jazz. This is true. But truly a foundational group, rather neat, and the subject of our conversation today. If you haven't listened to any of Led Zeppelin, we'll tell you a little bit about them, and then highly recommend you listen to the music.
Hey, I see what you did there.
Yeah, I did. So yeah, folks, Led Zeppelin? What are you thinking? What's
Man, I love Led Zeppelin. They're probably my second favorite band, right after Black Sabbath. And both of those bands were extremely influential and had sounds that, while they definitely have strong influences that you can see, they were both really lightning in a bottle sort of things that kind of bands they happen, and then you don't see a band like that for another long period of time, except Sabbath and Zeppelin were active at the same time. They kind of both came into the scene at the same time. I think Sabbath was also, they joined together late 60s. Their first album was then. Wonderful, really wonderful bands. One of those bands where it's not like Metallica, where it's most of them are really, really good. Led Zeppelin, they're all just
phenomenal,
fantastic.
Yeah, when you think about the instruments they play, especially with drums, you can think, oh yeah, this person. Obviously, when people think of one of the greatest drummers of all times, they think of John Bonham, Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones. They're all incredible musicians. It's it's really just, like Sean said, lightning in a bottle. Just all these amazing people came together at the same time, became one of the most influential rock groups of all time, and have some of the most recognizable songs of all time.
Definitely.
And to speak to your earlier thing about Sabbath, Sabbath actually formed the exact same year as Zeppelin.
Yeah, that's interesting, actually.
Yeah, 1968, both of them.
They're both, and they both went in kind of, very different directions, even though they basically had for the most part, the same influences. They were both very, very much blues influenced, and then that's basically what Sabbath was for the first couple of years. They were basically a blues rock band with distorted guitar and bass tones. And then after metal became established as a genre because of them. We're not talking about Black Sabbath here, okay? We're talking about Zeppelin, okay?
Well, I just want to say one thing about Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin. They did go in the exact same direction, as Led Zeppelin's first album was called Led Zeppelin, and Black Sabbath's first album was called Black Sabbath.
True.
That's true. Yeah,
They're the same band.
Exactly the same. So if you're enjoying Led Zeppelin, maybe check out Black Sabbath.
They're the exact same band.
They're the exact same band.
You won't
Same
be disappointed.
Obviously. But yeah, let's start to kick it off, so to speak. So who was in Led Zeppelin? Who is in this band?
Yup.
Well, like I said earlier, Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, and John Bonham. But specifically, Robert Plant is the singer, Jimmy Page was the guitarist, John Paul Jones was the bassist, and I believe he also played the keyboard.
Yeah,
And
he did.
John
I believe so,
Bonham,
too.
like I said earlier, one of the most influential drummers of all time.
Mm-hmm.
It's you really think like with Bonham like if he was still there like would Led Zeppelin have like continued to like, because they obviously most likely would have stayed together if he was still around.
Yeah.
But like if he was still around, like they likely, unless like some big infighting thing happened and they broke up, they likely would have still been making music for another 10, 20, even to the present. They would have been making music, and that would be. It's one of those things where it's like you kind of think like what the possibilities like. I'm rambling here.
Yeah. No, but
I didn't mean to ramble on.
I actually okay.
Actually, Ramble On was the first Zeppelin song that I ever listened to back in the day. I think, yeah, it's, to me, it's, at least for me, it's one of the iconic Zeppelin songs. I mean, when I think Zeppelin, I think Ramble On, just because it was the first one that I heard. That's how I am with a lot of different artists. I was young, and it was on my, I think I had just gotten an iPod, like that little tiny iPod.
Yep.
And
Yep.
I put on so much of everything, and Ramble On was just on there, and I would listen to Ramble On over and over and over again. It just really kind of, I think for me, because I do a lot of classical music, getting back to my roots is going back to rock, and really where it all started was listening to Zeppelin. Because I mean, I think one of the things that was touched on was, in a sense, it was touched on. For example, like Journey, when Steve Perry left. I mean, what's their singer's name now? Arnold Pineda or something. I mean, you can imitate sound, you definitely can, but you can't imitate ideas or genius. I mean, that's really what Zeppelin was doing. They were pioneering the age with truly genius in their time and in our time.
Yeah. I'm sorry, continue, Harrison.
Oh, well, I was just going to say that Arnold Pineda is the Journey's vocalist now, but right after Steve Perry left, it was Steve Augury.
Yeah.
Just making sure we're not spreading misinformation.
Of course.
We're spreading lies.
Rip.
No, but yeah, to add on to Chase's point, I became a drummer about 7 years ago, I think. And one of my major influences was John Bonham, just like listening to Ramble On, really, actually, which is kind of funny.
Ramble On.
it's just they were all just so influential to me. Like John Bonham and what was that?
No idea.
I hate my brother.
Oh,
Dude,
that
he's
was Julian?
seeing me. Yeah, no. Okay. So acoustics under a blanket, right? He's like screaming, "Oh, mom, he's looking at porn." And we're talking about Zeppelin. Funny times, huh?
Oh yeah,
Good
just
Exactly.
for anyone who's listening, yeah, most of us have a blanket over our heads in our computers to make sure there's a less echoing.
Yeah.
This is a very
Because-
scuffed setup.
Yeah, it's not like we can all get together in a
In the
room
same
that's like designed for good
place.
sound, because there's
Yeah.
a whole this little
Pandemic.
there's a little disease going around.
Corn cob
Yeah.
19.
You
Exactly.
wondered why we asked for money? Now you know. We're under blankets.
I'll reiterate, the most important point that we have made is give us money.
But
Yeah. I feel like since we're all talking about like our personal journeys with Zeppelin and how they
Sure.
kind of influenced us. And Journey, because Chase was talking about that. That's really funny. You think you're so funny. Essentially, like when I first started playing bass, the musicians who had like kind of made me think like, oh wow, bass is really cool. Maybe I should start playing that. Were like a lot of metal bassists like Cliff Burton and from Metallica, and then David Ellefson from Megadeth. Just because that kind of made me realize that it's like, oh wow, that can be really cool. And then once I started playing, my actual my actual playing is probably a lot more influenced by like John Paul Jones, Jack Bruce, Geezer Butler from Black Sabbath, as opposed to like the fast thrash metal stuff. It's more like bluesy rock stuff.
yeah. I personally was introduced to Zeppelin when I was like a child, like tiny. It was the music that was going around the house, and it was actually Black Dog. I remember.
Ooh.
I remember. I have vivid memories of just standing in the living room and just spinning around in circles because I didn't know what dancing was. I was tiny. So dancing was spinning around in circles really fast, listening to Black Dog. I mean, like, and from there, that influenced the music I listened to in a big way, and that my taste developed from there. Yeah, one of those. Like, there's so many. If we're talking about Zeppelin, like, we're getting into songs a little bit here. There's a couple of songs we're gonna have to talk about.
Namely, Stairway to Heaven.
No Stairway.
The song
Denied.
banned in all guitar centers around the world.
Yeah. If you didn't recognize that particular quotation, it's from a little show called Wayne's World, where they showcase the fact that you cannot play that song anywhere. Because it's so famous.
I mean, it's one of the best classic rock songs of all time.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
You know what Finley got us on this. Let's talk about Stairway. Let's go to a deep dive into some of their hits, some of their gems, some of their coolest songs.
Well, Stairway to Heaven was my first introduction to Led Zeppelin. But my second introduction to Led Zeppelin, the second song I listened to, was a song called Moby Dick. And the version I specifically listened to was a live version that I believe was approximately 15 minutes long.
Yup.
And if you know anything about the song Moby Dick, there's one melody at the beginning. It's like right? And that just repeats for a little bit, about a minute. And then it goes into the drum solo.
Yup.
And that drum solo is like 13 minutes of the 15-minute song. And he goes off. Like at the beginning it's a little calmer, right? He actually at some point puts his sticks down and like plays with his hands. Like just the sheer amount of creativity that John Bonham had while playing that was really like opened my eyes to the world of drumming and percussion as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Bonzo and Neil Peart with their solos are both just.
Mm-hmm.
It's like normally I love it like when I'm like listening to a rock band. It's like all the individual instruments are like all, noticeable and at their own like at their peak and are all doing their own thing that like kind of meshes together. But sometimes just a really good drum solo by someone who just knows every single square millimeter of their kit is it's a sight to hear.
Yeah.
Another Zeppelin song with a neat drum solo. Little song called "A Whole Lot of Love."
Whole lot. I was actually just about to mention "Whole Lot of Love."
Mm-hmm.
Really, really good song. With a very, very memorable. I'd say as songs go, very memorable chorus right there.
I mean, you can always tell what song it is.
You can always tell what song it is. Just constructed in a really neat way that a lot of the sound you get in that song, I've listening to other music groups and musicians who came a little bit later. That specific song I've seen imitated in a couple places in terms of construction.
Mm-hmm. It's a
good one.
It's a good one. It's one of the only songs that I will use a pick for when I'm playing it on bass because when because not because like I'm like one of those elitists who are like, the bass was meant to be played with fingers. Anyone who uses a pick is a simple peasant who can't appreciate the instrument. It's because like, I just like using fingers better. But on that song in particular, it's a lot of people when they learn the song, it's just like for most it's mostly just an open. They play with mostly an open E, but like I'm with like the main riff and stuff. A lot of bassists will play it with just that open E string for kind of that main part, but it's not only the E string, but you're also playing an E one octave up on the A string, and a lot of people don't notice that when they hear the song. I don't, like, it's very clearly there, and so because you're plucking two strings at once, you don't typically use your fingers for that with the bass. It's a lot easier with a pick, and it just sounds so much better.
Yeah, It's also a song that I like to play with a pick on the drums. Because I need to play two drums at the same time.
So
one must.
You got a sweep pick. You got a sweep pick between your toms.
Yeah, exactly, man.
So, given we've gone through some stuff, do we want to talk about albums a little bit here? Because Led Zeppelin, they released a couple albums. They did that. That was a thing they did.
They have a few.
They released Led Zeppelin 1, Led Zeppelin 2, Led Zeppelin 3, and Led Zeppelin 4, and that was it.
Yeah.
Because they ran out of numbers. I'm kidding. No, they got some gems after that too. They got Houses of the Holy. They got In Through the Outdoor. Every time I say that one, I always want to say In Throughout the Door.
Not they got
No.
song remains the same. I'm just scrolling through their Spotify page. Physical group.
No, that's you good.
They got a lot of them. I found that like when I've seen a lot of people like talk about their favorite Zeppelin albums or rank them, and it's one of those bands where every time I see someone rank their favorite albums, it's a different ranking, but every time I somewhat agree with it.
Yeah. Because if you pick any one of these albums, you can just like go, oh, there's going to be a couple. I mean, all the songs, of course, but there's going to be a couple songs you just like know immediately off the top that you're like, oh yeah, that song, right? And it's like that immediately brings it to the top. Except, wait, there's one or more of those in all of them. Well.
I guess let's start with the first one. Good old Led Zeppelin with the iconic picture of the Zeppelin that's made of lead.
Hindenburg.
Oh
yeah.
Hold on. Keep talking. I'm gonna try to remember their naming origin.
Yeah, because
right.
They had a thing with that.
Oh yeah, because I believe it was when they were in the Yardbirds. They were talking about forming a new John Bonham joining their band, and everyone around them was joking. They were like, I think it was like, "Ha, that's gonna sink faster than a lead balloon." And they were like, "Genius."
I've heard over and over again who that was who said that, but I forget every time.
Yeah, I don't remember. I can check it real quick.
Somewhere.
Yo, Jamie,
but
pull
that
that shit
also,
up.
That does bring us to excuse me. If you don't have a lot of history with Zeppelin, you may be like, Yardbirds, who's that?
Oh yeah.
So probably something we should mention real quick. They were part of a group called the Yardbirds, who I believe are still active, actually, with different members. But they broke away from them.
Who broke away from them?
Well, broke away. Led Zeppelin formed out of the Yardbirds.
I think they end the.
It was Page and
yeah.
I think the band the Yardbirds ended when Led Zeppelin started, but then I think they started back up like a little bit.
Yeah, they reformed in 1992. Yeah.
Yeah, it was just Page who was in Yardbirds, I think.
Yeah.
And then he left, formed the new Yardbirds with Bonham and Plant and Jones, and then they're like, you know what, this is a dumb name, and people are, someone's saying, that funny thing, so let's make that our name. But yeah,
and they became a phenomenon. They are.
Yardbirds was kind of just a factory for great guitarists, like Eric Clapton was in there. Like, if you had Eric Clapton, if your guitarist lineup goes Eric Clapton, then after Clapton, Jeff Beck, then after Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page. If you lost all three of those members throughout your band's history, that's gotta be.
It's funny if you look at the number of associated acts on Wikipedia that go with the Yardbirds, you just get like Led Zeppelin, Cream, the Jeff Beck Group, Renaissance. It's just got this massive list of massive bands. Funny.
But yes, Led Zeppelin 1. This album, I feel like it's definitely, you can definitely tell it's in their earlier stages when they're still trying to figure out their sound, and a lot of their songs are very derivative, including my favorite Led Zeppelin song, Dazed and Confused, which it's like several portions of the song are just straight up ripped out of another song of the exact same name, but I feel like it just has so much Zeppelin energy in it. Like, everyone's doing like everyone. It's one of those things I was talking about earlier. How about like everyone's at their just performing at their peak, and it just like,
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And that does the. If you look into some of the history of Zeppelin, when they were starting out and they were doing their stuff, they got a lot of the like critics would be like, "Yeah, it's derivative," which of course stopped. I think when they released Zeppelin 4, I think is when that kind of just stopped. But I think that's part of why they got that reputation when they were starting out. It's because
I think they got the
a little bit of
reputation
that.
for being derivative because they were derivative in a lot of their stuff.
Yeah, they just kind of pulled a lot of stuff.
Which, to be fair, like in your debut album, like especially in a group of already established musicians, like
Yeah.
can you imagine if like Cream's first album was just like all songs that like had portion or not all, but like several aspects of different songs in the album were just taken directly from other songs. Like people would have had things to say about them too, and we would have ended up with people making those same jokes, except instead it would be, "Oh, Cream is my favorite cover band," instead of Led Zeppelin's my favorite cover band.
Yeah.
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 It's
Oh, go ahead.
oh, sorry, continue, Harrison. Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say what I think if we were going to go into what our favorite Led Zeppelin albums were, mine actually might be Led Zeppelin 1. Which sounds weird, but like, because it's their first one, and obviously, like you said, but Good Times, Bad Times, You Shook Me, Dazed and Confused, like they're all on that. Like those are like so much like such important songs to me. But like, I mean, obviously pretty much every single one of their albums has like those few songs that like everyone knows.
Yeah, it's like I was thinking the other day, trying to like think, okay, which which Led Zeppelin album's my favorite, and I'm like, all right, well, it's whichever. I'm like looking, I'm like, oh well, I mean, it's got to be two because it's got A Whole Lot of Love and Ramble On and Moby Dick, and I'm like, one's got Dazed and Confused and Good Times. Oh man.
Yeah, that's the exact thing that went through my head.
Yeah.
Like, literally the exact thing.
I think 3 is one of those ones that, out of the first 4, I've probably listened to 3 the least.
I mean, they have Immigrant Song, but
yeah, with the exception of Immigrant Song, I've listened to 3 probably the least. Like it's one of those songs where I've put on the album a few times and listened to it just start to finish, but I haven't like the individual songs I don't listen to very often on that album.
Yeah, that's fair. Does anyone else have their favorite album?
Oh, my favorite, 4.
Black Sabbath 4.
I was about to say this.
4.
Led Zeppelin 4. Did I say Black Sabbath 4?
You did say Black Sabbath 4.
I mean,
My favorite Led Zeppelin album is Black Sabbath 4.
Hey, we were talking about Black Sabbath before.
We were.
I mean, Led Zeppelin 4. Jeez. Led Zeppelin 4 has Stairway, right?
Yeah.
It's got Stairway, it's got Black Dog, it's got When the Levee Breaks.
Yeah. Yeah. It's gonna be 4 has to be mine as well.
2 is a super, 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 super close second for me. Like,
I mean, they're all just so good.
I think to that point that they're all just super, super good. I mean, it's really anyone's game with albums. It's down to how subjective is it, because they're all really on the same level. It's really a level playing field between albums, and it's just what means more to you as a person. I think for me, Zeppelin 2 is my favorite, and I think really what tips the scales for me in favor of Zeppelin 2 is Whole Lot of Love. But it could be any album. really.
Mm-hmm.
You know what, Chase? I'm looking through the track list on all of them, and I'm actually gonna switch, cause like before
Two.
my options were 2 and 1. I think I'm gonna switch to 2.
Yeah,
my
a
favorite.
whole lot of love, Ramble On,
Oh,
Moby Dick.
that's definitely because of the Lemon song, right?
Yes, the Lemon song.
Harrison's
Squeeze my
like,
lemon.
Harrison looking at Led Zeppelin 2. You know, here's the thing. Like, I like it, but the version of Moby Dick is just too short.
I mean, the studio version, I believe, is shorter than some of the live versions, so therefore.
Yeah, it's 4 minutes instead of 15. It's
Can't believe they did that to me.
Yeah.
Shaking my head.
I'm personally
Truly.
offended by this.
I'm personally offended by this. I'm Sean.
Oh, but actually, I just looked it up. Of the who gave Led Zeppelin their name, who made the lead balloon comment.
Yeah.
Keith Moon claims that it's him. Keith Moon obviously being the drummer for the Who, right?
Yeah.
But John Entwistle says it's him.
Oh, of course, John Entwistle would say it was him. He'd be like, as a matter of fact, it was me.
But yeah, more people seem to think it's Keith Moon.
Yeah. I will say on the subject of albums, this for those of y'all who are listening in, what would y'all recommend as a good introductory album to Led Zeppelin?
That's a good question.
I would.
Imagine you're listening and you're like, okay, Led Zeppelin's a cool band. You sold me. What when people go to listen to some of the music, what album do you recommend people jump into?
I would probably end up recommending I'm gonna say 4 on this one. 4 probably seems like the most accessible one. Because like it's got Stairway, which is far and away their most popular song. So people are like, oh hey, I recognize this song, and I'm like, hey, cool. But also like from the get go, like opening tracks on an album are really important, and like Led Zeppelin 4 starting off with Black Dog, which is one of those songs that like yes, it's really good, but also it's not like
crazy.
Yeah, it's not. It's a really accessible song. Like people who aren't into hard rock, they just put that on like, oh, that's cool. I like it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like everyone from like every background can think like, oh, you know what? There's something in this for me too. You know what? Just mostly because of Stairway, I have to agree with you. Everyone knows Stairway. If they want to get into Led Zeppelin, everyone knows Stairway.
If you don't know Stairway, listen to Stairway to Heaven, please.
Listen to Stairway and then watch Wayne's World.
And those you interact with, yeah.
Wayne's World, the movie. Wayne's World, the show is isn't it just like an SNL skit?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Wayne's World, the movie.
Wow, Finley was spreading misinformation earlier.
Like I said, I'm here to stop misinformation.
That's
true.
Speaking of misinformation, are we going to address the elephant in the room with Led Zeppelin?
Which elephant?
Greta Van Fleet.
Greta Van Fleet, huh?
Greta
Van Zeppelin?
Yeah.
No. I like the tribute bands, if you're going to compare Greta Van Fleet to Zeppelin, I feel like I, for one, and a lot of other people, I think, will just throw back in your face tribute bands to Zeppelin, do Zeppelin so much better than Greta Van Fleet. I mean, yeah, sure, their lead vocalist sounds like Robert Plant, but like, as I said before, you can imitate sound, but like you can't really imitate genius. And I'm really not trying to throw a whole lot of shade on Greta Van Fleet because they are a band, yeah, and they might not be like they are a band. Say something nice about Greta Van Fleet. They're alive. I mean,
there's not a whole lot of love for them.
For those who don't know, Greta Van Fleet, does someone want to give a little introduction to why we're talking about them and who they are?
Gladly. So, right, basically, Greta Van Fleet. Sorry, I tripped over my own tongue. So Greta Van Fleet, right? Essentially, there's these there's these kids, these youths growing up in the 21st century, which is the one we're recording this in, and they're big Zeppelin fans, especially. I think 3 of them are siblings, I think 3 of them are siblings.
Yeah, Josh, Jake, and Sam, I think.
Yeah,
the vocalist, the guitarist, and the bassist. I think the drummer's the only one that's not in their family.
Danny Wagner. Yeah.
Wagner. And so they, those brothers, they were all really into Led Zeppelin growing up, which hey, that's cool. We got kids out here, they're listening to music. And then once they became almost not kids anymore, when they reached the end of their adolescence and began the beautiful journey into adulthood, and they're like, all right, we're gonna solidly form a band, because they'd been playing with each other, they had been playing music with each other, but they're like, we're gonna make a band, we're gonna record songs, we're gonna release it, it's gonna be great. And so because they had drawn so much influence from Led Zeppelin, and almost exclusively Led Zeppelin, to the point of consciously trying to imitate them when they were playing, surprise, surprise, their music ended up sounding like they were consciously trying to sound like Zeppelin.
Diet Zeppelin.
Exactly. That's the thing. It really is I would say not Diet Zeppelin, it's Zeppelin Zero. Because there's zero soul.
Wow.
There's zero soul in their. It's like I was saying earlier.
They're a helium Zeppelin.
Oh,
I
okay,
mean,
I get.
as
that one fell flat.
That one did fall flat.
I think, as anyone or any group, as young artists, it's very easy to conform to what you see as being successful.
Yeah.
Because that's really what gets you started. Because if you think about it, all of the big artists nowadays, they've built their reputation, and when they drop something, it's almost solely name brand that brings to it at first. And then if it's a great song or album, obviously people are going to love it. And if it's maybe kind of mid, people are still going to like it, maybe not love it, but it's like, oh, wow, you dropped. This is so mind blowing because you've been known to drop such great things. But as a young artist, when they're not known, they don't have name brand, they're really trying to find something. Yeah. They want something that works. And I think if you're going to start off with definite influences and trying to sound like someone, I think it's understandable. But once you get somewhere, you really need to find your own sound, because you can't go around trying to imitate someone or people forever, because you're just going to end up being kind of the quote unquote knockoff version of them. You're not going to be, it's never going to be, I'm an artist. It's going to be, you're this artist that was great.
I mean, and they're not bad
much
artists.
Before you were around. Yeah, very true. Yeah.
Like, they're talented.
Yes.
Like, it's not bad to draw inspiration. It's just bad to absorb the inspiration and only live off of the inspiration.
It's all about what are you contributing to the musical landscape, right?
Mm-hmm.
Precisely.
And if it's more Zeppelin, we love Zeppelin. Not gonna.
Zeppelin does Zeppelin best.
Exactly.
And I mean, when are we gonna? It's it's like when you say Zeppelin does Zeppelin best, it's not like we're gonna get anything new. But thinking of what was, it's really the pinnacle of what was created. And if you're going to imitate that, build from it. You can always make something more. You can always add something. And maybe if you want to, you can subtract something. But it's about creating something new. You bring to the industry what you bring, but what other people get out of the industry should be an inspiration for them. It should be different. If everyone sounded like one particular person, I mean, if everyone sounded like Zeppelin, we would have an incredibly, I think we would have
No one would like Zeppelin.
it would definitely be an oversaturation, but there would be no variation, which is what makes it the music industry so great. Is there's variation. If you're not in the mood to listen to one artist, you listen to another. And if you're just doing something that's been tried and true over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, it can get old.
I mean, like Syndrome said, when everyone's super, no one will be.
Precisely.
Precisely.
I feel that's like a really important point, Chase. And I feel like that gets lost on a lot of the I like to call them the boomer juniors. Right. Like see, like it's like on like a Queen video, there'll be like some like 10-year-old commenting like, "I was born in the wrong generation." Which thing is, I was about to say objectively no, but like
it's not going great right now.
Yeah, and to be fair, things that's besides the point. As far as music goes, we're at a point where we can, if you're just talking about the music industry, that's a different story. But as far as a consumer, you have access to thousands and millions of artists at your fingertips.
Yep.
And because of that, that means that new musicians and new creators can draw from all sorts of different influences they never would have thought of before.
Yeah.
And people say like, oh, but all music today is dumb. All mainstream super popular music is of the kind that is what they're talking about. And even then, like even if you don't like pop or you don't like certain kinds of rap, like that's fine. But those people just complain about that and then don't realize that there are rock artists and metal artists and jazz artists and all artists from all genres making music today, and it's not bad music. It's
one example would be like Snarky Puppy, which I'm not sure if y'all know about, but they have they take jazz and they like elevate it to like a new level, like because like, you know, people say like nobody can be better than Miles Davis, nobody can be better than Coltrane, right? But these guys, right, they take jazz and they twist it in a way that's just unheard of. Like if you listen to their song Lingus, the keyboard solo, I have some friends who are piano players and they say I don't know if you've ever heard the song Chase, but they say like
I have not.
Yeah, so they said this song almost made me quit because of just how insane it is. Like
yeah, if we're going to talk about keyboards for just a little bit, I think in my opinion, one of the greatest keyboardists in the quote unquote modern era was John Lord. If you go and listen to him, hold up.
I'll say a little bit about Snarky Puppy while Chase gets ready.
I mean, I can be back now.
Here.
Wait, was John Lord in Deep Purple?
Yeah, he was the keyboardist in Deep Purple. And
wonderful keyboard stuff. Sorry, continue.
I mean, when you think about it, I mean, you play the B3 and there's he could improvise, like, I mean, he just went at it and just did it, and it was improv, and it was just him. And I mean, I'm gonna geek out on this. Obviously, I'm a keyboardist, and John Lord was I'm speechless whenever I listen to him, and some of the older, well, I guess older in terms of his lifetime, newer in terms of mine. His music that he put out during the end, his solo stuff is just, and he would just go and write music, and it's, you know, it's not, it has influences from everywhere. I think genres nowadays are much too confining. And what you were saying about jazz is, if you're gonna twist jazz and you're gonna just do something so crazy that people are gonna try and just be like, this is insane, you are definitely doing something right.
I mean, it just shows that music's still evolving.
Yeah, definitely.
True. Like, I feel like that going back to like those wrong. I was born in the wrong generation kids who, like, we'll just say, like, well, I was about to say, I forgot what I was saying. Harrison, so what you were just saying earlier, I completely forgot.
I think I said something about Snarky Puppy, but
I mean,
right, okay.
I can.
I remembered. We were talking about the blending of genres and, like, taking genres to a different level. How, like, I think I agree that genres are like very confining, especially now when, like, because people have access to so many different types of music and different styles and different influences. Music definitely does have, people are going to be drawing influences from this and this and that and that. I've recently been listening to Thundercat, who, like, he does bass and vocals for, I don't even know what genre to call his music. It's neat. Like, I wouldn't say he's one of my favorite artists, but it's one of those artists I can just be like, all right, this is cool. And I think that's, like, people getting hung up on genres is very damaging, because then you have those the folks I was talking about who are like, oh, I don't like this, it's pop, or I don't like this, it's rap. Well, then they'll dismiss it just because they've heard some songs that
you might have an artist who you don't particularly vibe with their style, which, I mean, or even a inspiration that multiple artists have that you don't really vibe with. That's okay. There's a lot of people doing all sorts of different stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider myself a pop fan, but, like, I definitely find things, like, when I'm listening to, like, Sirius XM on the radio, like, in the car, there's definitely, like, something that I could just listen to and just, like, be lost in it. Like, regardless of the era.
You know what? I'll say it. I don't listen to pop very much. I like Lady Gaga. Lady Gaga's great.
Bro, I used to vibe out to Lady Gaga so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I'm kind of on the same page with you, Sean. I don't listen to pop a whole lot, but I mean, for you it may be Ariana Grande. Oh my God, I'm so dumb. For you it might be Lady Gaga, but for me, it's Ariana Grande. When, you know, pop, someone says pop, I think Ariana Grande. And really, the one song that I consistently listen to of hers is Into You off of Dangerous Woman. And it's just one song, but it represents to me so much of what is and what can be. And yeah, I'll listen to a ton of other songs, but that's really one consistent part of what I listen to. And I'm not, it's not like I listen to pop a lot, but there's if you just brush it off, like you were saying, you're not really listening to it. I know people that are very, very music purists,
Mhm.
and they're like, classical music is it, and you know, they say stuff like, oh yeah, I remember one specific thing. I had just come back from Hamilton, and it was a few days later, and I was talking about it with these people, and they were gonna go and see Hamilton like that next week or whatever, and I was telling them a little bit about it because they knew nothing about Hamilton. I was saying, hey, it's kind of like this and like this, you know, blah 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 blah. And when I said that there was rap, they kind of wrote it off.
Ugh.
And then I saw that and I was like, here, let me play you a song, and I played them. I think. Hold up. I played them a song. It was. I have it right here. What I'm getting at, I played them Yorktown, The World Turned Upside Down, and it's my
Beautiful
personal favorite track. It's my personal favorite track off of Hamilton, and I played it for them. And you know what they said after that is really what strikes me. And they said, you know, I think that most rap is unlistenable, but this is really good. And I almost died, because it's like, what I mean, regardless of whether or not you think you can't listen to a genre, you can't lump it all just because you heard one artist or one song that you totally hated and it just rubbed you the wrong way. You can't just write it off, because I mean, writing off rap, yeah, I guess you can kind of do it, but I mean, if you're going to write off rap, you're writing off so much right now. Hamilton, you're writing off Hamilton, and that's unthinkable. I remember once what I try and do when I get in that kind of a mindset, I remember one very specific example is when I first listened to Thunderstruck, you know, AC/DC. I first listened to that song, and it was not my favorite. I could not stand it.
Really?
And yeah, and I remembered that in my mind, because I like AC/DC, and I liked AC/DC at that point, and I listened to Thunderstruck, and I just understand why I didn't like it, because I like AC/DC. And then I came back to it a month later, and I listened to Thunderstruck again, and now it's like, if I want to go and listen to AC/DC, Thunderstruck is one of those. It's in a little specific list of songs that are just kind of on speed dial for AC/DC. I'll just hit the track and listen to it over and over again, and full volume. I mean, you guys know that I listen to music
at
loud.
full volume.
Yeah, and you know, that's not the best thing for my ears, but it's what I do.
Might want to preserve those if you're a musician.
Yeah, I know. I'm working on it, but what I'm saying
Wasn't
is that
Beethoven deaf?
Yeah, but yes, but Beethoven was a genius, and I'm not. So shut up. What I'm trying to say is that what was once a song that I couldn't really listen to has now become one of the staples of what I listen to on a regular basis. You know,
this mindset's existed in music forever. Like back in the 70s, nobody wanted to listen to rock. Like it's those punk kids, right?
It's
with the long hair.
Yeah.
With the freaking long hair.
Back against the wall, hippie.
I'm in the wrong generation. We've got this. This is not a new statement.
Yeah, it's not a new statement. Everyone
it's
was born in the wrong generation.
People back then were like, oh, we've got freaking rock and hippies with long hair who just want to like make loud music on guitars that's all distorted and weird. And now here we are going, Led Zeppelin, incredible band.
Yeah, and I mean, back in the time, you think, oh, back then it was like, oh, rock, turn up your nose at it.
Mhm.
But then you have stuff like all of these statements in rock, and then you go and you think about it. You think Woodstock, right? And
Mhm.
you have people that turn up their nose at Woodstock, but it's really just, what was the point of Woodstock? It's not about a giant music concert. It's about how all of these people, hundreds of thousands of people, live together in harmony, in peace for this amount of time. And it's possible. Don't make war. Make love, not war. It's and if you don't respect the music, then you can at least respect what they did.
I mean, when Kurt Cobain died, like, there were like people going around asking what they thought about Kurt Cobain, and like all the younger kids, like, and like a lot of people were like crying and like saying that his message was so beautiful and now it's gone, and like a lot of older people were saying like, well, he was a drug addict, right? And like he was he had like a terrible message, but like, and like they didn't understand. Like, people just don't seem to understand the things that they didn't grow up on.
I think no, please, Finley, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I was actually just gonna say that's why you listen to it. You listen to the music that you haven't,
He said the name.
I said the name.
He said the name.
That's a wrap, folks. He said the name.
We still got more to talk about.
Yeah. But,
and if anyone's saying that this doesn't have anything to do with Led Zeppelin, they basically pioneered the rock genre, and they were the beginning, and we're talking about the present of rock and the present of music in general. So
Also,
I think it connects.
Yeah. Also, even if it doesn't have anything to do with it,
we're just talking.
Can still talk about it. Yeah. What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Not give us money?
Ha! How could you?
You were going to do that anyways. So now you've got nothing to.
You got nothing to lose except time.
Yeah, we have ad breaks. The ad breaks are literally just us asking for money. No sponsors.
Yeah.
Please give us money.
It's hilarious because there's no established way for you to do this. So at this point, it's kind of just a bit.
Yep.
No, okay, right? So there's a comment section. You go in there, right? We need 3 things. Your credit card number. And the expiration.
What about their social security number?
Well, it would be I think we should play a fun game with the audience. Number 1, what's your mother's maiden name? Number 2, what's the name of your first pet?
I think we've gone a little bit too far.
What was your elementary school?
For those of you, don't actually.
Yeah, please don't.
I shouldn't have to say this, but please don't. Please don't.
I mean, our listeners aren't idiots, right, listeners?
Yeah, we
Even
know you're all big-brained. Not only are your brains big, they're not smooth. They're wrinkly. They're non-Euclidean brains. And furthermore, due to your immense intellect, you'll make the wisest choice of giving us money and
slapping that like button, subscribing to the channel, turning on notifications.
If there is a like button or a subscribe button and you're still listening to us at this point, I strongly recommend you hit those. Because
smash that like button. Let's get to 15,000 likes by the end of the day.
That's not going to happen.
That's never going to happen, but...
Hey, famous first words.
We're just shooting the shit, man. You know?
Yeah,
we're just having a good time talking about
music. Yeah, come on, Finley. Come on, you don't get ahead of yourself. Yeah, you dingus.
You dingus.
So what were we talking about before Finley took us on the segue?
I
think I took us on the segue, but...
I mean, what I was going to say before I yielded my mouth to Finley. That's I don't know why I said it like that.
I consumed your mouth.
Please go on, Chase. I don't want Finley to get on this.
What I was trying to say, I think back what we were talking about is that with bias, it's very easy to just continue to follow your bias and just keep using whatever you can, you're like, oh, he's a drug addict, he's a drug user, and
Every jazz
that
musician, every rock artist,
Musician.
all of them.
yeah, really, if you're taking all of this information in and all of this music in, and what you're getting out of it is that they took drugs, don't listen to them.
Mhm.
You're not getting it. If you have that much bias, go to therapy. No, I mean, but like,
I mean,
really,
it's a useful thing. Highly recommend. Just
I mean,
for
boiling
everyone who's
people
listening.
down to just one core like thing you don't like about them and dismissing them off of that, just like it just makes you a less well-rounded person.
I think the whole what Chase's story about people writing it off because it's rap. Like, are you seriously going to, look at if you're in a room, you're listening to Biggie, you're listening to
Eminem.
you're gonna look at Biggie, Drake, Kendrick, and Hamilton. You're gonna look at all that and you're gonna think, these are all exactly the same.
Yeah.
Then
I think
they're all rappers
refine-
of color, therefore.
well,
I think that's the sticking point for a lot of people that they don't outwardly say.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not making it about race. I'm just saying that, like, because I said Eminem, but then but we didn't put that in the list.
Rip.
Yeah. But and I will say on a slightly different, like when I was a younger man,
Finley, you're still a young man.
It's true. He's a man, but just a young one.
I am just a young one. I didn't listen to a lot of rap, and I was like, rap. And then I listened to rap, and I was like, all right, this is all right. Yeah, I can vibe with this. Chase, you were actually responsible for a lot of that.
I was, yeah.
You were. And then I started listening to people like, I'd never heard Kendrick.
Yeah, I know.
And this isn't about Kendrick, but like that there's a lot of folks who are struggling with the branding of rap because a lot of people are like, people are just saying rap when it's actually just, I actually remember seeing a thing that Tyler, the Creator, I think he had a big thing at the,
it was about the word urban.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yes, definitely. And I mean, when you say, look at what Tyler, the Creator, had to say, because he says it better than I will ever be able to say that. Any of us will ever be able to say that. And, but really the thing is branding. I think if we're going to go back to branding, it's kind of the genre thing again. The way I see rap is the words. It's your flow. It's how you speak. The music behind it can be jazz, R&B, trap.
Yeah.
I mean, you can rap over
classical.
anything.
I've heard it.
Yeah.
Oh, that does happen. Yeah, I think Canon and 5. People have rapped over that.
You can, and that's what I find sometimes so infuriating is you're listening to it and you just lump everyone into the same thing. And it's just not. I think I have a real problem with the Grammys, and I'm not going to get into disputing awards.
We can talk about the entire Grammys in another episode.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into that, but it's simply I have a problem with how they label things. And I'm not going to touch on that right now, but that's a thing that
exists.
Yeah.
I think with like labelings and genres, I haven't gone on a long tirade about metal yet this episode, so I'm gonna do that now.
Yes.
So like, with metal, like a lot of people hear the people talk about metal, and they'll think like, oh, that they'll imagine like Cannibal Corpse or Slayer, or like they'll like bands that are not indicative of the entire genre of metal.
Which, if you haven't listened to those particular bands, very word to describe them. I've listened to a little bit, very explicit, but like, loud. I don't know. Yeah, Sean, you're the metal expert, but giving a little.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Finley. I appreciate it. But then you have like you have Napalm Death and Black Sabbath in the same genre. Like, here's the thing. If bands like Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, and Iron Maiden, if they had just started today, they would be considered rock. Like,
Yeah.
Like, it's such a because Sabbath were the ones that they had based their stuff on, hard rock bands, not hard rock bands, but like on rock bands and blues bands. Like they were really the bands in the late 60s, early 70s were really heavily influenced by the Beatles. And so then they took that and then they made their own version. Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin are super similar.
Yeah. Getting back to that.
But because of how we categorize them, Zeppelin is firmly in the camp of rock and Sabbath is firmly in the camp of metal. And then you have, Judas Priest, Iron Maiden, Motorhead, and they were inspired by, they had a lot of inspiration from Sabbath, and then those bands inspired Metallica and so on and so forth. And
Yep.
you have all of these like point of order, just genres can be helpful for describing things, but I think they're harmful when they're used to categorize, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah. Because, without words, you can't describe the different things that you're seeing, right? You need words to describe what you're finding, but it doesn't mean that it's like everyone doesn't just have one adjective to describe them. People there's more facets to a person, there's more facets to music than just, it's this one thing.
If you're in like a music theory class and you're asked to analyze a song, and it's like it's like Led Zeppelin, and you say, how would you describe the sound? And you just write rock. You're getting 0 points.
You're going to fail.
I remember I saw in a room that the music teacher had been using to teach a class. He wrote on the board don't use jazzy to describe a song.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people in in the jazz class that I'm in, they would just write jazzy or swingy or bluesy, and it's like, yeah, technically, but what else?
There's more to it than that.
Like, I used to write like adjectives and like how like certain parts made me like feel, and like how every different part, like there was like different influence. Like, it's not all just jazz or rock.
Although, as far as something being all rock, I think one thing we can agree on is that Led Zeppelin is synonymous with rock and roll.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Definitely.
As far as, and like we are talking about how most things are more than one thing, and Led Zeppelin is no exception, but if you could have a genre-defining artist, I don't know. I think they're a good contender, personally.
I think that's a good thought to wrap things up on. Does anyone have any last vital words of wisdom they need to burst and throw out into the world?
And now a message from our sponsors. We're going back there.
My parents' bank account.
Yeah.
And hopefully yours too.
Wow. Yeah,
Smooth.
Give
You've
us
gone
money
there.
on
Hey,
the join button that doesn't exist.
if you have listened this far, thank you. We very much so appreciate it. And
Yeah, we can't tell you to do
Um,
anything, but thank you so much.
Yeah.
thank you for listening. I personally hope, and I'm sure I speak for Finley and Sean and Harrison when I say this, I personally hope that you found this conversation, this podcast to be enjoyable. Maybe you learned something, and if you didn't learn something, maybe you took away a different point of view that you never had before.
Mhm.
And I think at the end of the day, if we have been able to even just get something into your head, that's really the point, because
Yeah.
this conversation isn't for us, it's for you. And I want to thank you again for coming this far. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm out.
I don't think anyone could have said
Alrighty.
it better. Thank you so
I
much.
don't think so. Thank you for watching.
We'll see you guys
Take
next
care.
time.
We'll see you next time. And don't forget, listen to the music.